Happy Easter, everybody, and welcome to Live Courageously, podcast show number 14 of 2023. I'm your host, John Duffy, and this is the 30th Live Courageously podcast show since I started the show a year ago. Live Courageously has been the conscious theme of my life for the last 3+ years since the beginning of the pandemic in 2020, and it's been an unconscious theme for most of my life. If you haven't seen the previous 29 podcasts with some of my amazing, courageous friends sharing their powerful stories of overcoming all odds, going on to live powerful lives and making a difference in the world, you can watch them on my John Duffy Live Courageously YouTube channel. And I have another 75 plus friends planned to be guests on my future shows. So please subscribe to my Live Courageously YouTube channel at Duff SQ Film and keep coming back every Sunday at 2 p.m. So why do I say live courageously? Because fear is a reaction, but courage is a choice. And I suggest that you consciously choose courage and you choose faith over fear every time you experience fear in your life. Choosing courage will help you deal with whatever life may throw at you in the future. And it will throw stuff at us that we don't like or want. Today, my friend and guest is Elvis Leon, and welcome, Elvis, and thank you for being part of the show today. We got any audio here? No audio from my.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Happy Easter, John, and thanks for having me.
Hey, welcome, and happy Easter to you, and thanks for being part of it. Oh, I'm going to jump back. Well, you're here. I just kind of did a little bit of a pivot in a direction that I normally don't do, but so I'm going to keep you on camera, and I'm going to introduce you. So, which I was going to do before I brought you on, but this is welcome to live podcasting. So Elvis is a filmmaker living in Los Angeles. He's traveled 120,000 miles during the pandemic, all around the world 3 times. And now he's just trying to stay alive long enough to tell the tale. Before this, he had deployed to Iraq as a soldier for 15 months, and he returned with stories ready for the screen. He's been filmmaking ever since. Elvis has produced and directed many short films. One of his films screened at the GI Film Festival in Washington, D.C., and his last project, Cecil and Carl, screened at 50 international film festivals, including New Orleans and Toronto, and won 10 awards for the Best Documentary and Audience Award categories. He's now working on his first feature documentary, Real Lions, Somos Leones, about the kidnapping of his father and the family's pursuit of justice. You can follow Elvis's YouTube channel, Long Live Elvis. I love that title, to hear stories about his travels, his current events, making movies, and check out his GoFundMe page, which I'll put up later as well, to support his new feature documentary, Somos Leones. So now welcome to my brother Elvis. Welcome to the show, brother.
It's good to be back. Thank you.
So anyway, I always start off the show with 2 things. And so I'm going to start with one, and which the first one is, I always ask people, since most of the guests, with the exception of one so far, have been people I know in the real world and been friends in the real world. So how did me and you meet? What was the way we first came across each other?
We met at the roulette tables in Washington, D.C. at the GI Film Festival. No, we met at the film festival, and I screened the film Angels of Ambar, which I think we're going to watch today. And we didn't know each other before then. And after the film was done, you and George Ohan, a good friend of ours, just approached me. And it turns out that, George over here looking like a character from The Matrix. Yeah. George, he was stationed in my same duty station in Germany. We had a lot of mutual friends, but he got out right when I was coming in. So we never crossed paths. But when my film was speaking about these individuals that we served with, he was shocked. I was shocked as well, So it was a small world moment in Washington, D.C. that day.
It was, and that was the first time we met. And we were down there with a film that George produced and I directed, which is this film, The Flag, that screened down there at the same time your film screened. And then we went on to hang out with George at his wedding up in Fresno. So that was the next time we connected, and then we connected other times since then. But that film that, I'm about to play for the audience we were both moved by it because it was a short film that you had screened based on your experience in Iraq, and that kind of we just felt the power of it, and then we got a chance to meet you and talk to you, and then of course you got that connection with George Ohan, who at one point I'm going to have on this show as well. We tried one time and the tech didn't work, so we're going to have to do it again in the future. But let me go show the audience this film. Angels of Ambar. It's about 6 minutes. After it's over, we'll have a chance to talk about it. You'll talk about your experiences in the military, but also making that film and what that experience was like for you. So let me go to that. Put that here and share the screen. And see if I can get this up here. Go. This is...
I've spoken to God. Well, maybe it spoke to me. The reason I say it is because I don't know who talked to me, if anyone at all. With all the drinking and drugging, it's really hard to say. Whatever or whoever that was, it came to me in the most vivid dream. It happened in Ramadi, Iraq. I believe we were going on our 12th month of the deployment and had 5 more to go. At the time, our brigade was the hardest hit brigade since Vietnam. Our unit lost some really good guys, and I miss them every day. Alts, you showed me the ropes as a brand new private. Thank you. Just, I talked to you a few hours before you got killed. You set the standard for cool, calm, and collected. But fuck, was it tough losing Brooks and Gilbertson? When you guys left, everything changed. Iraq is the motherfucker. It's 120, 130, 140 degrees. Constant stress on your mind, body, and soul. And most of the time, there's no accountability when one of your brothers gets killed. When that IED explosion goes boom, everyone dies, and that's it. The enemy is like a ghost. Scarface said it best. I've never seen a man cry until he's seen a man die. He was right, but we had to suck it up and keep moving. The mission was above all, they said. You have 1 day to grieve and bottle up the rest for later. Iraqis were crying too. Everyone was dying. Women, babies, my dog Sandy, everyone. And from the top down, soldiers were even committing suicide. This one high-ranking soldier stopped his convoy, stepped out of his vehicle, and shot himself. He lost several soldiers under his command. That's when I stopped my daily prayers. I called my mom one day and told her this, and she said, keep the faith. But how? When there's no God or religion in Iraq, that God I heard so much about on Sunday was supposed to swoop down and save us all from the chaos, twisted metal, the IED craters, shield our eyes from all the dismembered bodies that plagued the streets. It was hard to see mangled Hummers that came through the gate, the black-bodied bags with your friends that were boarded on helicopters, never to be seen again. Seeing the remains of just his rifle that looked like scrap metal. Death runs this town, not God.
Back on up, man. What you doing? Yeah, what are they doing?
One day, we started partying. We had no other choice. Get shit done by day and party at night. We cut deals with Iraqi soldiers in exchange for whiskey, hash, and promethazine. As we said, fuck my life. This became the greeting of the day. Here today, gone tomorrow. So you might as well have fun while you're sitting in your 8x12 cell, passing around the hookah. But at your own risk, you could lose it all if caught. One night, I overdid it for sure. Got pretty messed up. My heart was beating super fast. Thought I was gonna die. I closed my eyes as my hands lay over my heart, and eventually I started dreaming. I was laying on a bus bench somewhere in Ramadi. I was alone. There was newspapers scattered all over the area. I was freaking out. The place was a ghost town. All I could hear was the wind. Then out of nowhere, a voice spoke loud and clear. Be carefree, grateful, and everything will be okay. I felt this overwhelming calming effect take over my body, and I woke up. It was the next morning. All my pain was gone. A new lease on life. Who was that? I felt a strong connection to him, the earth, and humanity like never before. It's been 6 years since my time in Iraq. Time flies. I didn't know that then, that I would think about my brothers who passed in Iraq every damn day. Was it all a dream? Iraq? The epiphany? Most days I just don't believe any of it ever happened. But ultimately, this has become my spirituality.
All right. Let me stop that. I think we're good. You good? Yeah, we're good.
That was a wild time, man. That was a crazy time. Unbelievable. I still don't believe it happened, to be honest.
What year was that, Elvis?
That was 2006 to 2007, 15 months.
And so tell us a little bit about what got you to Iraq, what got you into the military. Tell us a little bit of your backstory, and then take us into the forward story of like you come back from that experience, which I mean, I don't know about anybody watching it, but for me, the first time I watched it, it was just so, and maybe because it was on a big screen too, but it was just so powerful. The way you shared that story with the audience. And I think the audience felt the same way at the GI Film Festival. But take us on that journey.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was on the heels of 9/11. I signed up in 2003 going into 4. And, that was like the first time that I had to be courageous, right? Is when I signed on that dotted line that I was going to swear in and go overseas. I had no idea where I was going to be sent to. And I don't know if my boy Fernando's watching or not. He said he was going to, but he's the one who convinced me to go. And when it was time to go, he ended up not going, and I went by myself. And that was like the first step into like, oh my God, like I'm really going alone, and that was like, leaving the nest, if you will, for the first time, leaving my home and the country. I ended up getting stationed in Germany. So, which was a shocker, first time leaving mainland USA and going to this foreign land and being stationed in this military base that used to be a Nazi German base that we ended up confiscating after the war. And so it was like a culture shock just going and through this experience. And I landed I landed in an empty military installation that should have had 10,000 or so military personnel, but they were already downrange deployed. So my first 24 hours as a soldier, they're like, you're going to Iraq tomorrow. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I can't believe it. And turns out, that tomorrow came, they had like 20 of us lined up. Sergeant with the clipboard just walked and was like, everyone is going to Iraq except you. And it was me. So I ended up staying in Germany for like another year and a half, 2 years before I actually got the opportunity to deploy. And that was in 2006. We ended up going to Kuwait. We were in Kuwait for like 2 months, getting acclimated to the weather, going through drills and all kinds of training exercises. And we still didn't know exactly where we were going to land in Iraq. So every day we were getting updates, like where we could potentially go. And we all had our theories. And this was like the hottest time of the war, you know. Saddam had recently gotten arrested, and his trial was about to happen, and that's kind of when we were in country. So there's just a lot of turmoil in the streets right now. And so when we finally got the orders to go to Ramadi, Iraq, I remember it was like you can hear a pin drop, because everyone thought that was like a death sentence, because that was like the hottest fighting that was going on at the time, was the Sunni Triangle in Ramadi and Baghdad. And yeah, and so everyone was like, wow, we're in this for reals this time, you know. And I remember my first day on mission, actually, it was like a welcome to Iraq. Mission number one, as soon as we left the gate, there was just remnants of a vehicular-borne IED that left death and destruction scattered. And that was like day one. We saw nothing but like dead bodies, you know, and I was like, wow, like we're not gonna make it, you know. And then yeah, and the rest of the 15 months, you know, there was a lot of highs, you know, a lot of good times that I remember. Obviously, when you're in such a dangerous and chaotic and very unique life experience that not too many people get to see, a war-torn country, it is kind of like being in a nightmare or a dreamland, because you're just walking amongst rubble sometimes, where like there was just apartment buildings with holes in them and bullet holes in them, and craters everywhere, as I mentioned in the film. Like we always joke, like the place looked like the moon, you know. And we would drive sometimes at night, because we had to drive with no headlights on, because we didn't want to, you know, get attacked and these kind of things. While in the middle, I was in logistics, just to say, like we were delivering fuel, ammunition, and water to the front lines and to the rear. So we would convoy 7 days a week, sometimes 2-3 times a day, just to make sure that everybody in the front line was had everything they needed to execute the mission. But yeah, I mean, I could talk about the war like all day, but like, where do you want to
let me just jump in for a second? Just say, you know, I mean, I think one of the things I know for me as a civilian, you know, having been involved with a lot of stuff with veterans, is just, I think most of us civilians don't really know what that reality is. And your film in 6 minutes just captured so much of it, because it was just, you went through such a journey, you know, and then the trauma of losing your fellow soldiers, and then dealing with, you know, feeling that, you know, that you were in a basically godforsaken place, and how were you going to survive, and all that. You take us through that emotional journey and the trauma that you experienced. And that, you know, for civilians, that given that only 1% of the people are in the military, most people don't have a clue about what that life is. And I think your film captured it real well. When did you join the military? How old were you? And did you sign up for 4 years when you came in? And were you living? Where were you living when you joined the military?
I was living in Denver. I just had graduated high school. I saw a recruiter right when I was 18, and I left when I was 19. Wow. That was April of 2004 is when I left. April Fools, April 1st. And then that day when the drill sergeants picked us up, I was like, this has to be a joke. Like, we just got ambushed by like 8 drill sergeants that just, you know, broke us down into dust, you know, for the next 6 months before I ended up shipping out. But yeah, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stories, and obviously, you know, like you said, all the experiences in Iraq. I think, you know, part of it, and maybe you just want to address, I don't know how much it affected you, but obviously the emotional impact of, you know, losing your fellow soldiers, the emotional impact of being in that situation where you don't know if you're going to live or die every single day that you're awake, right? So, you know, it has to have an emotional impact on you. So coming back, you know, where were you at emotionally? Where were you at psychologically when you got back from that experience and having, survived at least physically through it. um where were you?
Yeah. Lost. Uh, I was like in a dream-like state for a long time, just because going from such an extreme environment to back to the US where everything is polished and beautiful and there's giant shopping malls and bright lights everywhere, and you're like, wait, was I really there? Like, did I just see this? And so that transition from seeing like the most extreme version of human, a human experience at like war, and coming back to a peaceful like area is shocking actually. And dealing with survivor's guilt as well, just because like a lot of my friends who died, they had families, they had kids, and me being like a single person, I was like, why, I would gladly trade my life for these people to come back and be with their families. So that's another difficult part. And then coming home, and at least at the time, the VA, the Veteran Affairs Hospital that's supposed to take care of veterans, it has gotten a lot better over the years. But when we first got out, I think there were so many soldiers getting out that just like services were lacking, and so a lot of people ended up self-medicating, living on the streets, and then I started losing friends, that were out as civilians because they were unable to just live with what they had to experience over there, and I just lost one of my brothers, Ryan Talbot, last year, and I think a lot about him because he never, I don't know, we all left a piece of ourselves, over there, but I feel like he was still chasing that, or maybe he wanted to go back to that type of environment to try to find himself again. And when the war in Ukraine broke out, he actually went over there,
Wow.
and while everybody was changing their, Facebook profile photo to have the Ukraine flag, he actually went, and fought under some, pretty horrendous just situations. We were contacting each other through, Telegram and Signal. And anyways, he came back home, and I think that betrayal that we felt when we first came back from Iraq, with not having services, and us putting our, bodies, souls, and minds on the line, and then just no one even caring, about you essentially. And that's, it's true and it's not. A lot of people do support the soldiers, but I'm not quite convinced when you see so many, homeless veterans, and that statistic of 22 veterans, committing suicide a day. So to me, it just there's misconnecting. I can't speak. Something's just not connecting there, for me. So when my brother came back, and maybe he expected some kind of support because he actually went to go to Ukraine to fight, and he came home to eviction notices and all kinds of troubles at home, and then he ended up taking his life. And so yeah, rest in peace, Ryan Talbot. But
Yeah, may he rest in peace. Yeah, Elvis, I mean, clearly we could do a couple of hours just on your experience alone and on this and these issues. And so the challenge is because you go on to do so much more, and then you got another incredible story that I want to get to and share with everyone. So it's almost like I don't want to cut this short because there's so much power here, and there's so much you got to say. So we'll have to do some more another time again. Sure. Yeah. But when you came back and you dealt with all this, and you pivoted, or you found a way to become a filmmaker, and obviously we just watched one of the films that you created. What got you to do that? What was why did you make that choice and go down that road, and then get your film in the GI Film Festival, and then all those other films festivals that you got your other films into? Why did Elvis go into telling these stories in film?
Partially, it was an accident, to be honest. I didn't even know film schools existed, and when I came home, I had no clue what I wanted to do. I knew that I had the GI Bill. I knew that I got out of the military to, go back to college because I had it didn't work out when I first before I left. So I'm like, all right, well, let me give it a shot this time. And I was going through a lot of turmoil. I didn't really know how to deal with it, and I wasn't getting any help from the VA. And I don't know. I started like reading about just maybe having some type of outlet to express yourself, because I didn't know how to play an instrument. I didn't know how to sketch. I didn't really have any artistic ability. So everything just kind of kept bottled in. So when the film school thing popped up, it just seemed like a natural fit. And I'm from Los Angeles originally, so I grew up, watching movies my whole life, and so it was an opportunity to maybe kind of vent a little bit and get some of these stories, out of my system. And then I graduated from film school, got my undergrad, and my film school was amazing. The Colorado Film School, to be exact. They're really hands-on, so you make several short films just in your first semester of college, and that was amazing. So I left with probably a good 4 really solid short films that all went to festivals. So I got to thank my film school for encouraging us, giving us the equipment and the skills to do that. But right out of film school, I had a nice little run, with 4 or 5 short films. I was pretty active doing music videos and random, business promotional videos and stuff like that. And then, I ended up getting an opportunity to live in London. So in 2015, late 2015, 2016, I ended up going to London and continuing being a freelance filmmaker, or at least chasing these dreams, And I think that's the other part that, as a filmmaker, you have to be courageous, because it's so, you have to be very fluid as well, right? Because nothing is secure in this industry, but we do these things because we love to do it, right? And we got to tell these stories, so.
Well, what was it like with the getting Angels of Ambar and attending the GI Film Festival, which, for me, I attended it 2 years in a row in DC.
Nice.
And I just thought it was one of the most powerful film festivals, because it had all these military people and veterans sharing, stories that were more heartfelt, that touched you on an emotional level and took you on an emotional journey. So I just thought it was one of the best film festivals I ever attended. So what was that like for you to be there amongst other veterans with your film and connecting with people who were all trying to tell stories from their lives?
Yeah, no, incredible event for sure. I submitted. So I did this workshop. It was like a storytelling workshop. It's a 3-day, 8-hour, a full 3-day workshop where you tell a story only you can tell, and you bring your own imagery. And that was the prompt: a story only you can tell. So I started writing about this Iraq story, which, in looking back at it now, it was my first short film and my first introduction to shooting videos. We were the first generation to have these pocket cameras and the first iPhones and iPods and stuff. So this was the first time that the soldiers had tools to document war, and so I think a lot of footage was coming back from our era of Iraq veterans. And going to the GI Film Festival was awesome, man. I got to meet you. I got to see a lot of great stories from every era of American history. And I remember I was saying that we met at the roulette table because they had that Casablanca night, remember? And they had the roulette table, and
it's funny. I forgot that for a minute. When you mentioned that, I was like, really? And now, then you triggered my memory. I was like, yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, the Casablanca party. That was a good party.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
But no, man, it was, an honor to be at that festival. I haven't been back since, but they have screened my short a couple times. I think at the San Diego.
Now it's just in San Diego, and there's one coming up May 15th, I think, to the 21st. I'm probably going to go down there on the 19th because a film that short film that was made over at Post 43 American Legion. I got a chance. I was asked to act in it, and it was about the zombies attacking Post 43. So it's a comedy, and it's so I'm going to go down and check it out down and hang out with some of the folks down there at the GI Film Festival. But you know, the other thing, since we got
as I speaking of you being an actor, I love that photo in the background. You with the
yeah, that's when it started out for me. When I was like, I played a hired killer, and basically I was hired to kill homeless people for this guy who was trying to gentrify a neighborhood. And of course, I ended up getting killed and dropped into some manure from a porta potty. So it was kind of a fun role. But yeah, that was my journey on the acting side. But just to go forward, because I want to get to really spend some time on this documentary that you're working and have been working so hard on. But before I jump to that, you went during the pandemic, you traveled all over the world 3 times. I mean, that's pretty amazing, impressive. Tell us a little bit about that. And I know there's not enough time to cover all the places you went and what you experienced, but give us the short version of all that, because that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I never in my life intended to travel that much. It was something that happened out of necessity. It was like a gut instinct of, if you don't do this right now, like you're gonna regret it forever, And I was going through another tough period because of what we're about to see with my documentary. So it was another moment of feeling lost. And like I didn't belong anywhere, just because we'll get into the details, but my film has a lot to do with dealing with the justice system. And oh wait, are you still there? Did I lose you?
I'm here. I'm just giving you a full camera. I'm just giving
okay. Sorry. Yeah. So just dealing with the justice system, and that being a David versus Goliath story. And it broke me, and it was several years of going through the most intense period of my life that is equivalent to me going to war. It felt like going on another deployment. So I was a broken man, I'm not going to lie. And I essentially just escaped, and I ran away, looking for home, looking for a place where I belonged. And I was self-isolating at the end of 2019 before the rest of the world did in 2020. So by the time that the pandemic hit, I was already dealing with, more symptoms of PTSD compounded with everything new that was happening, where I kind of had a death wish. I'm not going to lie. So me traveling during the pandemic and maybe not making it, I was okay with that. So, I didn't know what was going to happen. I was scared, of course, and a lot of people always were following me and asking like, oh my God, I could never do what you do. Aren't you scared? And I was like, heck yeah, I was scared. But I was conquering fears as well, and even in these travels, I went to the places that I feared the most because I was feeling so dead inside that I was only connecting with fear. So fear made me feel alive still, So it was a weird relationship that I had. And where my journey first started was going to Guatemala, where my father was kidnapped. This is like a blacklist no-go zone for me,
And this is the we'll be showing this after. This is the story right here that's up on the screen. And that, that's the story. And we'll get into that in a minute, but keep going. So you went to Guatemala where your father was kidnapped. And that's just right there. You just kind of like quickly put that out. But that's huge, man. That's like, you're dealing with all this other stuff, like you said. And now you got this horrible situation that has now arose in your life. And we'll play the trailer in a minute, but keep going before I do.
But yeah, I'll skip around so we can get into the Guatemala stuff in a bit. But that's where my traveling started. I went to the place I was scared of the most, and I was there for 30 days. And I wanted to better understand this place where I'm also from, ancestrally. My father's Guatemalan, my mother's from Mexico. I was born in Los Angeles. But so it was also a journey of reconnecting with my roots and just trying to better understand this country that almost took my father's life, you know. And but
Why don't
skipping
we
ahead,
why don't we stop there for a second and let me play the
let's do it.
the GoFundMe and let people see what the story is, and then you can come back and you can take
Let's
us
do
deep.
it.
So this is the GoFundMe page, and I'm gonna give us a full screen so we can watch it.
Hello, my name is Elvis, and I'm working on a documentary about my father's kidnapping called We Are Lions.
Algo que hace tu papá es que se me hace muy peligroso, es que anda de noche espiando a esta gente.
I have a story to tell. All of this still feels like a dream. The kidnapping, the trial, the death threats, the hurricane.
Unprecedented tropical rains and catastrophic flooding.
I almost die in the process, and my dad almost dies twice. There's a social justice element to this. There is an injustice that was done, right? That needs to be corrected, needs to be addressed. And I hope that this film can actually put a spotlight on these serious subjects that are happening in our communities that are really being overlooked.
De que mi mamá muriera, yo siempre pensaba en mi mamá y cuando muere también va. Y después de que me secuestraron, ellos agarraron el primer lugar en mi vida, el pensamiento, porque despierto pensando en ese maldito.
True crime is one of the hottest genres right now, and we're never hearing from the victim side of things. It's rare. Like, it's all about the glorification of these serial killers that became famous. And I just want to tell the story of a common man from our community that went through this horrific experience that happens to be my father. So this is also a story of just a father and son going on this wild journey together. And that's something that a lot of people can connect with. So I think I got a lot of great pieces, and I can't wait for you to see some of it. I've been working on this project for over 7 years, and I have hundreds of hours of footage. I probably have at least 2 films in the can right now. Production is wrapped, and now I'm seeking funds to hire an editor, a story editor, so we can take this thing to the next level. There's for sure a diamond in the rough here, and if you agree, if you connect with the material, please reach out. Please think about supporting this financially, and if you can't, then share it. Or if you have anyone that you think would be interested in working on this, send them our way. So thank you so much for listening. Love you, and thank you.
All right. Let me. I think we're back. All right. Are we back? Are you
Think
there?
so? Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's once again. So take us into this story. You said you started out going to Guatemala when you began your journey, but what was this story about your dad being kidnapped? And take us through that, and then the documentary that you're working on. That
Yeah. I think, well, first and foremost, well, thank you for showing that. And this is the first time I've shown this publicly. So, and some good news in Colorado. So let me start. So I mentioned Guatemala a lot in this, but when my father was kidnapped in Guatemala, my family paid a ransom in Denver, Colorado for his release. So someone in Denver organizes kidnapping in Guatemala. So that's what sparked this documentary, because we tried to contact authorities that first 48 hours that we were dealing with these ransom negotiations, trying to get help from the local police, the FBI, Homeland Security, you name it. And no one came to our aid at all. No one even pretended to care. They thought it was a hoax. They thought my dad was lying. They thought my dad was involved in some narco trafficking. So it was just another, for me personally, like another slap in the face where like a military veteran pays this ransom money, and I can't even be taken seriously, So that was I'm like, wow, like how American do you have to be to get justice? Like this is a serious crime. This is a Colorado crime that got completely overlooked for years, and it wasn't until there was an arrest in Guatemala where the FBI finally started taking us a little seriously, and then that's what the film will be about. I don't want to give too much away,
Sure.
but I documented 5 years of police investigation in 2 different countries. Me and my father traveling back to the scene of the crime, trying to get closure on this thing, and then as you saw in the trailer, my father starts teetering on vigilantism because he finds out who actually kidnapped him, and it turns out it was someone he knew. So
Wow.
it's a wild story. It's the movie that I never wanted to make. It's the movie that chose me, and it's not been a fun process. It's been dangerous. I almost lost my life in this process. My dad almost died on my watch during this process of filmmaking, like he almost died in the kidnapping, and then when we went back, I almost lost him on my watch this time. So yeah, I don't know what set me on this fool's errand, suicide mission, whatever you will, but I felt like it was a story that was important, that outside of my family, just because this was something that affected us in our community in Denver. Like these men live 30 miles from our house in Denver, and so yeah, so it was something that I thought that making this movie was like my way of fighting back, my way of shedding light, on this crime that has taken place. But also, it's an examination, of my father. It's a family story, which is the heart and soul, I think, of this story, and I can't wait to flesh it out and show everybody what I've been working on, because it's a very unique thing to go on this wild journey with your father, and yeah, I don't know.
Once again, sometimes you wonder in life, you obviously were given skills by going back to school as a filmmaker, and you took advantage of that to tell a very personal story about your time in Iraq. And then, of course, you did not expect to be given this story, because it's not a story you wanted or want to live or even have to spend your life telling. It's the last thing you wanted, right? And yet life threw you this horrible situation, and you got through it, and at the same time you wanted to make a difference and tell the story so it makes a difference in the world. So I mean, I think that's the thing where you talk too about courage, the courage of being at war, the courage of dealing with this. Doesn't mean that you're not afraid, doesn't mean that you don't have fear, but it means that you still move forward to be able to overcome the fear and overcome the obstacles, which you clearly did. So this particular documentary, you've done over 500 hours of filming. I mean, you've been doing it for 5 years. So this is obviously, you put your heart and soul into this to be able to get this story done, as well as risking your life. So, where do you go from here? Obviously, you mentioned, you didn't mention, you were about to mention in Denver, there's a magazine that's about to tell your story. So share that if you don't mind as well.
Yes. So 5280 magazine, for those that are from Colorado, it's like the biggest magazine in Denver. And they're doing a 7-page cover story of this. So this is the first time the story's going public. So I thought it was a good opportunity to finally try to raise some funds, because I've gone the traditional route of applying for grants or going straight to production companies. Some deals got close, but because of the ambiguity of how it was going to end, and it was an open investigation, a lot of production companies didn't want to touch it until the case was officially closed, which it is now. So now, again, it's the perfect time to finally finish this. And I have tried to personally do it on my own, but I'm just too close to the story, to the material. And now it's evident that I need to hire like a professional editor or a team that can help me like flesh out and tell the story, the way it needs to be told, So that's why I want to start a crowdfunding campaign. The page is live. I'm considering the next couple of weeks to be a soft launch, but the magazine releases on May 1st. So I will probably ramp up my efforts sometime in May once the magazine circulated for a couple weeks. But yeah, that's essentially the plan. But yeah, I appreciate you sharing that link and sharing it with your followers.
Well, yeah, and I'll do more. I'll share the GoFundMe additionally next week, and I'll share it again, obviously, when you ramp back up with the article in the magazine. And once again, it's just you came back into town just recently, and we got together. I was going to an event, and I invited you to it, and then you and I kind of caught me up on all this, and I just felt like, well, this is a great opportunity to because it's such a powerful story, and you put in so much of your time and effort to tell this story that I just felt like that, it'd be great to get people to know about it. And if there's any way people can support you, whether it's as editors or a support team or people to help maybe with social media, to promote it out there, to help, get the GoFundMe, to help you, because you've been a one-man show and pulling this off. And that's not easy. I know that for sure, man. So, so if anybody is watching and anybody can help, and like I said, I'll push it out more when the article comes out. I'll share the article on social media as well. But, once again, it's like, I didn't get to ask you my second question, but you kind of answered it throughout, but I'll ask it again now. I always ask people, what does it mean to live courageously? And I think anybody watching this show has seen in your films and in your reality and examples of living courageously. But I'd love you to just kind of sum that up for you personally, what that means, up until now and going forward in life. What does that mean to you?
Carving your own path, following your gut instinct, even though when that decision, can hurt. I think for a while there, I lost my voice and I stopped listening to my gut instinct, and I felt like that began to degrade my mental health and my self-confidence, actually. So this experience, I think, has put me out of my comfort zone, and it's put me in a position to conquer fears, even though, again, a lot of this situation I got myself in was very foolish, and it could have cost me my life. But it was also a cause that I felt worth dying for, And so I've been following my gut instinct ever since, even though maybe it doesn't make sense. But I hope that it's like a guiding light, that'll, take me, further than I have before. So I'm still practicing these things as well, and it's not like that I don't feel fear, I was scared this whole time, but it was something that I had to do for sure.
Well, I think that's the point is like, you can feel fear. Fear is real. Fear is not, it's a warning. It tells you that there's danger there. And so you don't want to ignore fear or the message of fear, because then you kind of act crazy and you don't realize that there is a real danger in front of you. So recognizing fear is not a bad thing. Letting fear not allow you to move forward or keep you in a place where you don't go forward. That's where fear becomes a bad thing, where, it's like you can acknowledge it and go forward anyway, even though, there's risks, and you still take them because it's worth it and you're willing to, plow forward. So that's kind of what I think the message of the show. That's why I do the show. That's why I bring people, I get a chance to, I just say I've been so lucky and blessed that I get to meet and have friends like so many people like yourself who have in different unique ways lived courageously and have, found a way to go out there and bring their uniqueness to the world. And you're doing it with this. So I really encourage people to, whatever way they can support you with this GoFundMe campaign, with helping you with editing, any way that they can support getting this project out in the world. I think it'll make a contribution. So that's one piece. what else would you, summing up? I mean, what are the lessons say, just to kind of pivot back, and then we'll pivot forward again to end the show. But in the 3 years that you traveled, you said you went to some dark places, Guatemala being one of them, but then you went elsewhere. You went all around the world. What was that like for you, and what was that experience to spend 3 years going around the world 3 times?
Yeah, man. Again, there was moments where I traveled in solitude because, again, I think I was in this like space where maybe I was punishing myself because I almost felt like I exiled myself from society. And in my pursuit of searching for a home or a place I belonged, I just adopted this nomad life that I never wanted. Another thing that I didn't want that just fell in my lap. And that calling was louder than anything that was going on at the time. So I just kept pushing. And I did go to some incredible places, but my last trip around the world started in Los Angeles. I went from LA to Denver to London, Istanbul, India, Thailand, Japan, back to LA. Literally went around the world. That's what I did from September to December last year. So, and that's when I just got back in January. Okay. So now I'm still processing. I'm still processing the last 3 years, and I've been doing a lot of writing. So there will be a book down the road of these 3 years of traveling and all the lessons I learned. But at the end of the day, I think the thing that aligned my compass again was just seeing how privileged I was, one, for being able to travel this much, and two, just showing gratitude for what I do have, because I saw and spoke and hung out with a lot of people that were in some extreme, poverty situations that dwarfed my problems, and these were some of the things that I learned when I went to war, that I took a lot of things for granted, until you get stripped of everything. But you forget about these things, these are like some of the rules and lessons that you learn along the way, like showing gratitude for the little things, and if anything, that's what I relearned during these travels, was that we have everything that we need, to be happy. It might not seem that way, but when you actually sit back and look back, life is good, and we just got to be appreciative of what we have,
Well, I think that's so powerful and profound, man, because, I think if anything, sometimes we have too much than we need. And like you said, when you kind of get stripped away, you see what that reality is, and that we have way more than enough to be happy and grateful for. And sometimes when you have too much, it kind of clutters the world that you're living in, and you don't realize how lucky you are and how grateful you should be, because you got all this stuff as if that's what's going to make you happy or grateful, when it's really not that. It's the bottom line of being appreciative and seeing that, you got your health, you got some opportunities that most of the world don't have an opportunity to do. So we are definitely, have all that. So I can't, but support and say it's the most important thing is to be grateful, to get up every day and be grateful for what we have, and find a way to make it better for others as well, not just for ourselves. So,
that's right.
So it's not always about us, but it's about what we can give, not just what we can get. So that's been powerful. I want to put up real quick your YouTube channel where people can stay in touch with you and just take a quick look at that. And let me see if I can grab that up there. And title, Long Live Elvis. And let's see if I can just put that up there so people can see it. So this is your YouTube channel where you put content on. People go there and subscribe, check out his videos. This is just a series of some of the stuff that he's done. And of course, we'll get back to some of the other stuff, but go to Long Live Elvis on YouTube, and you can follow the stuff that he's doing in the film and media. And all right. So in closing, man, anything, you want to say, how do people contact you? anything you want to leave us with, any message. I mean, I think you've given us some powerful messages already with your documentaries, with your life, with your, taking those chances. And like you said, you didn't want to go on that journey, but I can only hope that that journey makes you stronger, because there's a lot more that you need to contribute, and I've already contributed so much. And I think this documentary is going to be another powerful contribution when it gets finished and gets out there. So let me throw it to you and say, how do people contact you? I'll put up the GoFundMe campaign. You'll put up the GoFundMe campaign, I'm sure. And beyond that, go for it.
Yeah. So, well, again, thanks for having me. Thanks for showing the trailer for the GoFundMe. I mean, that'll link you to my website and my YouTube channel. Website is down right now. It'll be up in a couple days, but follow me there in a couple weeks. Facebook, Instagram, all of that stuff. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're all just learning. So I'm going through this process for the first time of making a feature film. So just any mentorship or any guidance would be beneficial. Like if you can help, outside of financial, making a contribution, I would appreciate any support whatsoever, even if you just share the page or just send me a message and say hello, But yeah, that's it. Thanks, John. Appreciate you.
Hey, you're welcome, brother. And once again, I'll help push some of this out for you. And if anybody who watches this show, whatever way you can support it, maybe making connections, maybe just sharing it, just whatever way you can help. I think this is a important documentary that you're going to create here. So anything I can do to help, I will do as well. So thank you, Elvis, for sharing all this. Thank you for all you've done in the journey, both in the military, but also in civilian life and with your dad, and trying to right a wrong and to get people to do the right thing in our country, and everything that you're doing there. So I appreciate you, man, and I appreciate what you're doing with that. So whatever I can do to help, I will. You have a great one, and thanks a lot for being on the show, brother.
Appreciate you.
All right, back at you, brother. All right. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed the show, and you've enjoyed Elvis Leone's powerful and personal film documentary projects, Angels of Ambar, and also his newest one that's being worked on, Somos Leones, We Are Lions. And hopefully you can find a way to follow him, support him, his GoFundMe campaign, and do whatever you can to help him. I'd love to get any feedback from anybody who's watched the show on what you enjoyed, and any suggestions and how I can improve it and grow the audience for it. And please subscribe. Go to my YouTube page, and this is where you can subscribe to my YouTube. And so you can follow me and join us every Sunday at 2 p.m. Next week's guest my guest and friend is going to be Dr. Lauren Michael Harris. He's the founder of Power of We. He's a podcaster, a military veteran, an author, a speaker, and he's going to be leading a tour, Legacy of Hope tour to Romania, coming up soon, to help orphans over there. So he's a great guest. I've been on his podcast show just recently. So hopefully you'll come back and join us next Sunday and every Sunday, and meet the great friends that I've been blessed with. And I encourage you to choose to live courageously and make your life a masterpiece. And God bless you until we meet next Sunday.